How's it going, everybody? My name is BobaTalks and welcome back to another Gotham review, and this is for One Bad Day. And holy crap, what an episode this was of just twists and just an amazing kind of take on the Killing Joke itself. And you guys know what I mean by that if you've seen this episode. Now, this was the penultimate episode to Gotham Season 4, and I have to say it definitely delivered. It didn't deliver on one or two things, and I'll get to that bit. But as for everything else I'm thinking of, I really thoroughly enjoyed. Jeremiah was great. The whole situation with Bruce and Alfred with Killing Joke stuff was great. The twist at the end was just... But before I go on and review this episode, guys, be sure to subscribe if you're new to this channel and turn notifications on so you never miss out on a video. And if you go on to like this video, hit that like button, as it really does help this video out, and yeah, definitely supports the channel, so thank you so much. Now, at the very end of last episode, James Gordon was assumed dead because the bunker blew up, and that is the last place anyone was to know him to be. And in this episode, it starts off with Captain James Gordon is missing, and Harvey is running the GCPD just like he did once before. And I have to say, let's give it up to Harvey, just like Lucius said, because he was doing a top job. Seriously, I love, if any of you guys have been in my live streams, I always say, when anyone asks me who is my favorite character, I always say normally Alfred or Harvey. I really love Donald Logue. I don't know, there's something about him that just really makes this show for me, and I love it when he gets to stand up to the mark. Obviously, he's had some times where he's had a few dodgy turns, but that is very much so the character. He's a bit shady anyway, but I love Gotham's version of him, and he did a really cool job in GCPD, and I just love how he absolutely refused to believe Jim Gordon was dead. Anyone who came up to him or said anything about that, he was just like, it was almost shoving his finger in their face, shouting at them, and that's the fierce friendship that I love about this show that was forged between Jim and Harvey. But then this proceeds on to that moment which we've seen quite a few times before with Jeremiah outside, mainly because a lot of us saw it when it was kind of leaked accidentally when Gotham was on a break, I believe. But also Gotham released previews anyway, and this was up beforehand, and we saw the clock tower destroyed. We saw Jeremiah wanted to make sure that people believed that he was serious about evacuating the city. Now, I get a lot of questions about why would the Joker want to evacuate the city. That's not very Jokery, is it? Now, Jeremiah doesn't care if everyone dies. The thing about Jeremiah's Joker is he's trying to be sane, or like go about Jeremiah's plans in a sane way, but what, as Bruce said, what could be more madder than that? But there is this element of, oh, you know, trying to attempt this kind of sane approach. For example, how he says to Bullock, how, you know, everyone can leave the city in 5.5 hours or whatever. If not, they're dead. You know, no matter what way you look at that, even though he gives the option for evacuation, that is quite mad. Anyway, great performance by Cameron Monaghan. I just feel like I've seen this 50 million times already, so I'm more wanting to talk about the stuff later on in the episode. Now, for all you guys who think Barbara might possibly have feelings buried away for Jim, I don't know about what after this episode, because the way she was just acting when, you know, it was on the news that James Gordon is missing, or, you know, presumed dead, she was like, you know, he always wanted to die a hero, and she took a sip of her cocktail or something, and she just really doesn't give an F, you know. It's just like, yeah. Anyway, this was pretty cool. Penguin and Birch approached Barbara. We knew this kind of from the trailer anyway, and that they wanted to team up to take down Jeremiah Valeska, but they need money, and Penguin was offering to split it. Now, Barbara was like, why would I work with these guys, especially Birch, you smelly, you know, big man kind of thing, and that made me laugh. But as soon as, you know, Penguin pulled out the Cure Butch card, Tabitha has a hold over Barbara. So thus the alliance was formed to try and, you know, get this other Valeska family member out of the way, so these guys can rule the city and get a bit of money at the same time. Now, I believe this was in another preview clip as well. You may have not seen it. Some people choose not to. But when Jeremiah meets Barbara and Penguin, because they were kind of in his current setup, and this was a scene where he gets the RPG out and everything like that, and I found it hilarious. But what I found more hilarious is trying to extort $50 million out of, for all intents and purposes, a Joker. And this was all because they had a jongleur, which everybody thought was going to be the Harley Quinn dressed person, which, you know, turned out to be Echo. But no, jongleur is a guy, you know, juggles his, you know, blades or whatever they were, machetes, I can't remember right now. But he had the core relay, and I just love it how Jeremiah was just like all chilling with his approach. This is what I do like about this iteration of this version of the Joker. And he was just like, I see you have the upper hand, you know, and it was just trying to make them think, yeah, we do. So give us the 50 million. Just as Jeremiah walks around, you know, it just seems like he's walking around and talking. He picks up this freaking RPG and shoots, and that was just hilarious. Very random. Even though Jeremiah's this more chilling version, not so wacky and anarchic as Jerome, that was such a, you know, a Joker thing to do, and I really love that. Although I do love when Jeremiah agreed and Barbara was like, oh, you know, wait, you know, after knowing your brother, I expected something a little bit more insane. And God, guys, don't ever mention Jerome to Jeremiah, because that is the personification of what triggers Jeremiah. And I just love that line as well. He's like, insane? Well, I'm nothing if not sane. And don't forget, vastly more intelligent. God, you know, you have to include that in there. I'm only joking. It's just Jeremiah. I just love how much he hates Jerome. Now, stepping back to the GCPD for 1 second, going back to Donald Logue, but also David Mazouz, those scenes between those two were just really good. The acting came out more than ever, I think, in this episode. Not only for Bruce, and David Mazouz is Bruce, but Donald Logue and that scene where he's just talking to Bruce about how Wayne Enterprises built those bombs. He's like, Wayne Enterprises built those bombs. That was just so passionate. A great performance between those two. Those two don't get a lot of screen time together, obviously Harvey and Bruce. But this is when Jeremiah rings Bruce, and this is what starts the very, very interesting parts of the episode, where Bruce is told to meet at this location, where it is very much so the Killing Joke stuff that happens in this episode. And a lot of people say, didn't they do Killing Joke last year? Well, Jerome did the kind of circusy kind of part to it and stuff like that. But this year, Jeremiah has done the bit where in the comics, Jim Gordon goes round this ride and sees Barbara Gordon, like, and it's quite dark, you know, photos of his daughter. I'm not gonna say any more than that, but obviously the contrast to this is there's Alfred throughout this building, or what seems to be Alfred, getting tortured by the Scarecrow, I believe, breathing insanity gas and all kinds of things, and Bruce is basically being driven insane, and it's all off the premise of all it takes is one bad day, and potentially, and what Jeremiah senses is that something inside Bruce is in him, locked away, and that he can bring that out, just like how it got unlocked in Jeremiah. And that's another thing I wanted to mention in this review. It really does kind of confirm that the laughing gas, to all those who are kind of doubters, definitely did, you know, how do I put it, unlock the box of Jeremiah, because some people think it didn't do anything, just cosmetic effects, but because that's what Jeremiah says. But that's because he doesn't want to admit what Jerome did. He doesn't want Jerome to be responsible for his new great face, you know, the face of sanity, or so he puts it. Now, just to expand upon that further, I love the line that Jeremiah says when Bruce is walking around. It was just, this is just so jokery, as I always say. I love the theatrics. I love whenever Cameron's on TV in a very jokery way. Just, it's so comic booky, and Jeremiah just narrating over the freaking speakers or something, saying this very line here. My brother said all it takes is one bad day to reduce the sanest man alive to lunacy. Jerome gave me what I thought was the worst day of my life, but only through losing everything was I able to fix what was inside of me. And I believe I sent something very special inside of you as well. So there you go. Jeremiah kind of basically admits there that he was unlocked. He was, you know, given the worst day of his life that drove him to this point, and he really wanted to unlock it in Bruce, and it was just perfect. It was really, really cool. Now, obviously, Bruce was unbeknownst to him that Scarecrow was filling all these rooms with, you know, subtle kind of gas that he can't really see. So he thought all of this stuff was happening to Alfred, and all of the stuff that was happening to Alfred was insanely dark. And I love how, one thing I love about this show compared to other superhero shows, if you will, is that they can do a lot more dark things. You can see a lot more dark things. And I love the CW shows, but I'm only comparing it because they do a lot of things off camera. But whereas, you know, in this, we saw Alfred literally cut his face, and all kinds of things like that is what I appreciate about Gotham, and this is what makes it such one of the aspects that make it such a great show. Now, I have to say, Sean Pertwee does quite the haunting Joker laugh, so well done, Sean Pertwee. That was really cool. Obviously, this wasn't the real Alfred, but Bruce believed it was. I loved the moment where that kind of cleared up for him and Alfred came out. The moments like that between Bruce and Alfred, because Sean Pertwee, by the way, guys, to all of you who don't know, is my favorite live action Alfred out there. Just seeing that sincerity to Bruce, you know, he's lost everything in the world to him, and despite his, you know, teenage angst thing this season, Alfred is literally everything to him, you know, anything and everything to him in this life. It's all he has really, apart from Selina. So that was very touching, seeing the chemistry between those two actors just completely so kind of flare between. It was just remarkable. And then you had Selina as well. They've been really pushing the Selina Batcat kind of thing this season to the last part of this season, and just what she was saying to him, the way she was just, and this seems a bit cringy, but she was like, Cameron really was looking into David's eyes so much more, and I feel like they're really being deliberate with this. As I said, I feel like they're maybe pushing it a bit too much, because they have kept this up for a long time. They've always played with the fact of the Batcat situation. But Selina's always just been about, like, you know, her comic book self just always wandered away. But now she's all of a sudden shifted maybe a bit too much, in my opinion, to really just there for Bruce. This, that, there for Bruce all the time. Looking into his eyes, being there, being really unguarded, actually, compared to what Catwoman normally is. She's actually been parred by Bruce a couple of times now, and she's still being extremely open to him. But that's not a bad thing. I really, really love it. I think those two, I really kind of like this younger take on how the bond between Bruce and Selina Kyle is forged. The romantic bond, that is. Oh, I'm just going to chuck this in here. I forgot to mention Selina versus Scarecrow. Now, I felt like Scarecrow was, yeah, like he had a purpose in this episode, you know, for Jeremiah's purpose, but there wasn't much more to it than that. You know, obviously Selina fought him. I thought it was cool, but there wasn't anything spectacular to it, I don't think. Like, it was just like something to go along while, you know, whilst Bruce was going through this himself. But yeah, you know, it's cool to see Scarecrow. And all in the meantime, the bridges, just like in No Man's Land, I think they're being blocked or like kind of cordoned off to stop more people from coming into the city, but like getting out. And then they also figured out in the episode that there's this kind of brain bomb to it also. If they find that one, the first one in the chain of all the bombs, then they can stop all the bombs, like kind of like a domino effect. And this kind of leads me to Jim. So Jim actually wakes up in the Narrows, and that was quite interesting. We got some more screen time with Lee and Jim, and there was a little kind of special moment between them, which starts the bits in the episode which I'm not really a huge fan of. Like, I don't mind watching it at the same time, but I'm still not like, I wouldn't have it this way if it was going my way. The reason why Jim was saved, obviously, is because Ed had him followed previously in the previous episode. So when obviously the bunker blew up, Jim barely kind of made it out alive. They took him back to the Narrows, and that's why he woke up there. Now, like I mentioned, and if you spotted this, before Jim actually ran out the bunker, he grabbed something off the table, a map from the Jeremiah's plans, and that's what he gave to Lee. That also came along with obviously Jim walking in the GCPD with the map, which, you know, started all of this. And I love how everyone was just, you know, saying, oh, you know, Captain, and, you know, it was just brilliant, because obviously quite a lot of times Jim has been hated even by the cops in the GCPD, and he's had to get their respect. He's sometimes been the only good cop in the GCPD when a lot of them have been corrupt. So it's always good to see, in a very comic book way, the whole police department just being so happy that their James Gordon has come back, because this man in the future is going to be probably even more well received than he already was in this episode by people when he comes back after everyone thinks he's dead, because he'll be commissioner and he would have been doing this even longer than what he has now, and has even more respect than what he has from his fellow police or detectives in the GCPD. Now, the bit I'm not so sure about in this episode is the whole Riddler and Jim thing. Obviously, that moment happened between Jim and Lee, and, you know, it's not like there's anything between them, but they exchanged some nice kind of words, and you could tell that meant something to Lee. But in Ed, when he was watching it in the background, he's probably getting very paranoid that there's something more going on. And when there was that conversation between Lee and Jim in the episode, and he's just kind of using, you know, his own kind of situation, or like talking to Jim and doing all this stuff, saying all this stuff to validate his own position with Lee, it's just a bit like, I don't feel like I wanted this anyway. We didn't ask for this. We don't really ask for anything, but I just feel like none of us wanted this. Well, some people probably love this Lee and Ed thing. Obviously, Jim was triggering Riddler by saying, I don't think Lee loves you at all, by the way. She's just gonna, you know, use you, and when she's done with you, she will go away to move on to whatever she's going to do next. But anyway, these two kind of work together to figure out the actual plans that Jeremiah had in terms of the buildings, and which buildings were going to be blown up, and which buildings are going to be safe, and which one, and how the city is going to be reforged into this kind of mazy kind of place, in what they described in terms of how the bunker, you know, the maze in the bunker and stuff like that was Jeremiah's safe place, and what he's doing with Gotham is kind of interesting in how it's going to be in a similar way to his bunker, which is going to be his new safe place. Now to get some other golden moments with Jeremiah, and that was with the cult, and I predicted a couple of things here. But the way things went down and Cameron's performance was just stellar as usual. So when Jim just popped up on the TV, and now the cult of Jerome, really, even though they're Jeremiah now, they're secretly and always will be Jerome, and this was proven because Jim just popped up on the TV saying, "You're like a shallow, paler version of what Jerome ever was," trying to trigger. I love how Jim was trying to trigger Jeremiah, and as we all know, and as I mentioned earlier, that is the goddamn best way to get to Jeremiah, which probably isn't a good thing as well. I love how he's just like, "That's not Jim, he's dead, that's a trick, I killed him," and he was just refusing to believe it. Hey, this guy is vastly more intelligent, is he not? But no, he's no better than his brothers whenever Jerome failed, even after a spectacular plan, because the Joker kind of always does get flopped in the very end. And I think Jeremiah just truly believed with his jokery forward roll that wouldn't happen with him. But as per usual, he kind of noobed out, to put it in a weird way. But this scene was tense for so many reasons, because at the same time there's another scene going on with Harvey, and he marched to one of the bombs. Well, I think it was the brain bomb, as I was talking about earlier, and the two bits to break the actual bomb from going off were identical, and Harvey was just like, eeny, meeny, miny, mo. The pressure that Harvey must have been under, it was just so funny, but also so serious. Whilst all this is going on as well, Jeremiah is getting triggered. The cult are calling him liars, and he's just like, right, I'm going to flick this switch. He's going to ultimately prove to the cult for once and for all how much of a badass he is, how funny it is that Jim's taunting him over the TV, and he's just going to blow up another parts of the city just to get even more of like a revenge feeling for what is going on to him right now. The cult don't believe him. Gordon is teasing him, and he's just like, right, that's it. Flicks it. Nothing happens. And that, well, oh my god, his face, it was priceless. And this leads to the moment in the White Band trailer where I thought that was the cult getting burned, because he was just like, after they were all calling him a liar, and he was just shouted, shut up, and he was like, I find your fickleness hurtful, and he said predictable. So he saw this coming. I feel like because he's so intelligent, just in case it didn't work, he knew the cult would turn on him. Of course, that's not really surprising, so he ran out the room very quickly and burned them all to a crisp. And as I said before in the White Band trailer, the most chilling thing I find about this scene is just Cameron's Jeremiah just looking at them burning, just kind of like staring through a wall like this, and then was like, I need to get on now. And it was just wow, like just not really being phased by burning humans alive, and then just realizing, oh, I've probably got something else to do now, I need to get on. Now, we can't forget that Ra's al Ghul had the cataclysmic event vision in his eyes, so he saw what Jeremiah was going to do to the city, and this is like a very foretelling thing, so it will kind of happen. No Man's Land is definitely a thing that will happen with these two teaming up together. I love how he said, like, you're tenacious, and I like that. Jeremiah was just trying to kill him, and he wasn't really taking it too seriously. He was just like, you're behind me, aren't you? And it's just like the thing about the Joker, or whatever iteration of the Joker you're looking at, I feel like their sense or fear of death or anything like that isn't a thing. If they were to die, they were to die. Obviously, they were trying to avoid it, but things like where Jeremiah is just trying to shoot Ra's could easily slay him, and even though he's behind him, he could get his head chopped off by a blade. He's just making a joke kind of at the same time, and if at any point they were to die, they would die. And I just really got that sense in that moment, so that's why I wanted to include that in there. But yes, they finish it off with Ra's al Ghul saying, this isn't about Gotham, this is about Bruce Wayne. So I feel like what we saw in the White Band trailer with everything else, from the next episode where Jeremiah says, we're going to forge a legacy in Gotham and stuff like that, I feel like Jeremiah is really going to be on board. Like, he won't ever want to kill Bruce, as we know in this episode, and a lot of it was all about how Bruce is his very best friend. I think he's going to be totally on board with Ra's and how he actually wants to create the Dark Knight in Bruce. It won't be Batman, but it will be the second best thing to Batman until he's Batman, the Dark Knight. And so I think he almost wants to create this better version or darker Knight version of Bruce, and that is what is going to be happen. And as we all know, Jeremiah isn't the Joker now, because there's going to be possibly a third kind of inspiration even before the Joker. So I feel like Jeremiah's role, potentially even if we get a season 5, is just going to be bringing out the best friend side in Bruce relationship that the Joker kind of has, and also transforming him into the Dark Knight. And I can't wait to see what happens with Ra's al Ghul and Jeremiah in the next episode. God, it's going to be insane. These two minds together could probably achieve all kinds of things, and that, I guess, is No Man's Land. Now, that last scene, everybody, holy moly, God, oh my God, Killing Joke complete with pudding, basically. This is the pudding to your main course of the episode. And, you know, Selina and Bruce kiss. That was very sweet. I like how Bruce uses that analogy of one bad day causing, you know, this insanity. And Bruce says maybe he had one bad day with his parents dying, which made him a little insane. And Jeremiah sensed that in him, like I mentioned earlier. And that is when Jeremiah comes in the room and says, to be fair, the day isn't over yet. Puts the gun to Selina in a very Joker kind of killing joke way. Just how Barbara stood there in the comics with the gun to her. And then boom, and she falls on the table, glass goes everywhere, just like the comic book. Oh my god. And I know everyone probably are like, oh my god, and I was like that too, but it's just like, you know, plot armor, people. I feel like Selina's going to be fine. However, I do not know what they're going to do with her. I know she's going to be out there climbing the rooftops in the years and years to come, but it really wouldn't surprise me if we were to get a season 5 if they were actually going to go this Oracle route with Selina. Now, that sounds batshit crazy, right? Why would they do that with Selina? Now, as I said, it wouldn't surprise me if Gotham, as I've always wanted, and I've mentioned in previous videos, I want that Batcave open again when Bruce goes back to vigilantism or the Dark Knight version of himself. If we get that next season, I feel like the Batcave will be reopened in Wayne Manor, that little room where Bruce could hang up Lucius Fox's suit, have the terminals there, and maybe Selina for a few episodes of season 5 until she recovers, because she will. There won't be, I think there probably might be a spinal injury or something like that, but just like Barbara Gordon, but in a much quicker time, she will heal. But maybe for a few episodes, she might actually be helpful to Bruce. I don't know how I'd feel about that. This is just a wacky Boba idea, but it wouldn't surprise me. I would love to know what you think is going to happen with Selina being shot, but oh my god, that was crazy. And I love how Jeremiah was just there, just like, eh. But then Alfred was just beating into Jeremiah like anything. Oh man, could you, I remember thinking the thing that made me the most upset in a way was Alfred went out there to go make a legendary fry-up, and then he heard this gunshot. Imagine what was going through his mind. Obviously he doesn't want Selina to be shot, but imagine he probably thought that, you know, it's obviously a chance Bruce just got killed. So man, I felt for Alfred, and that's probably why obviously Selina being shot made him so angry, but he was just probably seeing blind rage and just beating into Jeremiah. Now, to end off this long review, I want to say, where was Echo? A lot of people saying, where was Echo? One thing I mentioned in my last review, we need more Echo explanation. I know one thing I did say is they've got so much to flesh out already. How can they find the time for that, unfortunately? And I kind of saw this coming. So unless we get Echo in the next episode, which I think we might get a teeny tiny bit, maybe not, I don't think we're going to get too much out of that explanation until season 5 potentially. But yeah, that stuff, something I feel like they shouldn't have even introduced her so much. I feel like it was cool to give that fan service, you know, of the Harley Quinn-esque thing when they said they weren't ever going to do her again. But don't do it without fleshing her out or explaining why she's so devoted to Jeremiah and why she's still here when he's a crazy lunatic. So let me know what you think. Do you think we're going to get Echo? To be fair, I haven't seen the trailer yet. I'm about to record that. But yeah, I need more Echo development. But anyway, guys, that is my review. Great episode. Let me know what you thought of it in the comments below. And also, if you like this video, why not leave a like on it, as it really does show your support for the channel. And if you want to see more videos like this on Gotham and on other shows, why not subscribe with notifications turned on. I want to say thank you to my patrons. They're popping up on the screen around here. Links to my Patreon are in the description as the top link. Links to my social media is there as well. But other than that, guys, I think that is everything. Man, Gotham is only one more episode. It's crazy to say that. And will we get a season 5? If you do want that season 5, I would recommend going crazy on Twitter, making sure you're watching the show, using the hashtags Renew Gotham. But yeah, everybody, let's hope we get that season 5. And I'm going to sign out now. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.